Now let's talk about some undrafted rookie free agents.
Let's do it.
The stars of camp, starting with Jordan Mason, who I think has captured a lot of fans' attention. I put up a video of his carries yesterday. A lot of people were watching that. He runs hard. He's extremely decisive, and he's got burst for an undrafted free agent. Do you think he'll make the final roster?
The 49ers have had so much better luck with the undrafted free agent running backs than they have with the guys that they've taken in the early part of the draft. So I think he's now shown too much, I think, to sneak him through waivers. So that's also a factor. You got to ask the question, will any of these guys sneak through waivers? I don't think Mason will sneak through waivers. I think, that there's probably some team out there that's going to see 225-pound back, runs with power, contact balance, finishes his runs, really
averaging
tough.
About 6 yards a carry. Yeah.
And if you go back to college, it's not an accident. I think he averaged 5.2 a carry at G-Tech. So, he played in the ACC and he played at a pretty high level. I think he looks good. If I didn't tell you, between Trey Sermon and Jordan Mason, which guy was undrafted and which guy was the third round pick, you would have said, oh, yeah, Mason's the third round pick.
Agree. And, if you didn't know what happened last year and you just were dropped on earth starting this offseason, you said which running back had the best offseason for the Niners, I think you'd say Jordan Mason. Elijah Mitchell's a hell of a player, but he's hurt right now. He's hurt a lot. Jordan Mason is out there looking like an Iron Man. And then he plays like – I thought he'd be tough to tackle, but then in a game, he's really, really tough to tackle. He reminds me of Arian Foster. Arian Foster was an undrafted free agent, went on to have some really, really good years. I don't know if Mason will ever get 300 carries in a season, but it looks like he could handle it. He's got that decisiveness and he's like instantly going downhill. He takes the outside zone to the right, but finds the cut back to the left. I like Jordan. I'm a fan. I'm getting his jersey.
Oh, yeah. No, he is. He's a good player. And not only that, they didn't use him as a receiver at Georgia Tech, but the 49ers have thrown him the ball, and he looks pretty natural as a receiver. So then you got to wonder, why did they not use him as a receiver in college? But the run power, the contact balance, to me, what made Barry Sanders the greatest back ever? He had the best contact balance of all time. And this guy is not Barry Sanders. But he's got, and I've seen him take hits in practice. He bounces right off. You can't arm tackle him. He runs upright, but he deals out punishment. To me, it's a little bit of a Marshawn Lynch, a little bit of a Marion Barber kind of a look.
He's a little bit more violent than Arian Foster, right? Foster was kind of sleek. Yeah.
Arian Foster had a little bit more pick and slide. I see a little bit more Roger Craig. I see more high knees and he's no picnic to cover. And if he gets 2 or 3 steps and he gets on that second level, it's like, uh-oh. And he made a couple plays in the second half of this game the other night that it was like, wow. This guy's going to be hard to bring down. He runs with a lot of power. He's a very powerful runner who finishes his runs. Yeah. So, they got an abundance of riches, but how does this guy not make it?
Maybe because he's a running back and an undrafted free agent, teams feel they're a dime a dozen. He could sneak through. But it seems to me if he doesn't and the Niners keep Trey Sermon instead of him, that would be a shame because, look, Trey Sermon hasn't had the best blocking, but you said it with Mason. He runs with power and violence. That's something every running back can control. You see it with him. He's constantly falling forward. Sermon, he gets hit, he gets stood up, and a lot of times he gets thrown on his back. That's something he can control. I think he does not run hard enough for this team.
Well, okay, I've seen a ton of Sermon going back to Oklahoma. He is a true rhythm back who needs a volume of carries to get rolling. He's just never gotten that volume in this offense. And Kyle doesn't use his running backs like that. He uses a couple series here, a couple series there. So Sermon has never really gotten going. I think if Sermon were like their only back and they had to hand it to him, 15, 20 times, he would warm up and you'd start to see a little bit more of that player that you saw at Ohio State. But so far, they haven't given him the carries in bunches, and he hasn't established any rhythm.
I think they should trade him.
I think they should too.
Yeah,
I think they should too, because there's probably, the third round player equivalent at a different position that they could acquire for him. And like, I'll give you an example. Tevin Jenkins, who was a first round pick, I think, of the Bears, tried him at tackle. Now they're trying him at guard. The Niners, maybe don't know who their third tackle is going to be. Maybe they've got some tackle issues because of McGlinchey. That would be a nice deal. So, I mean, maybe there is a way they could flip him and get something that's a little bit more useful.
And I think what they need to learn from Trey Sermon and Jordan Mason is they need to stop spending third-round picks on running backs, because I know there are good running backs that get taken high in the draft, but when you can find good ones later, you should probably be spending those third-round picks on positions where it's harder to find good players later, like offensive line or deep safety or corner. I'm just saying, but that's just
No, it's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to the origins of the Niners' greatness in the 80s and 90s. What did they always had great O-lines. They always had great defensive backfields.
They did.
But Ray Rhodes found guys late, and Bob McKittrick found guys late. And what's the advantage of Kyle Shanahan and their running backs? He seems like he can find a good back late. So, maybe invest those higher picks in other spots.
Yeah. G-Code Travels Vlog POV says Niners signed Pro Bowl safety Tayshaun Gibson. We talked about it at the beginning, and our take is that it's a nice signing. I think he's a better player than Tart, and I think he's going to make the team. So let's Terry Brooks says, do you think Bosa is a defensive player of the year candidate?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't get any votes for comeback player of the year last year. 0. Why?
Yeah, I don't know, because coming off the ACL, I mean, it was almost like people forgot he was so good. It was almost like people forgot he had the ACL.
Possible. Were people just so focused on Joe Burrow? I don't know. Maybe
it's a quarterback league.
East Coast bias. I don't know.